What is up? Hopefully you guys are having a wonderful day. Back with some more Final Fantasy 16 gameplay for you. And today I wanted to start a string and series of videos where I talk about things that I personally would have done based on certain experiences I've had or just a certain way I think certain events should go in this game. As I said, I've really enjoyed Final Fantasy 16, but there's a few moments and things that I would have done personally that probably should have happened in the game that didn't, but that is no means an indictment on how the overall game experience was. Just how I look at things. Now, as I said, these are my opinions, so don't get too mad at me. But also, there are going to be some spoilers in this game, in this video, I should say. So, if you have not beaten the game, please turn this off right now, so I don't want to get mad or ruin some of the experience. But without further ado, let's get into this. And the person I'm going to be looking at today, how I think they should have been done a little bit differently, is good old Cid. Now, once again, before anyone pitchforks me to death, I'm not saying anything about Cid and his character. Cid is awesome. He's great. He's an excellent character, one of the best in this entire game. But I do have one problem with him, and it's not anything to do with his character. It's just that I feel like, unfortunately, that he bites the dust way too soon. I feel like he should have been in the game a little bit longer before his ultimate fate. And once again, it's not me trying to change his fate or change how he ultimately, that he goes out and dies. It's just that I feel like he should have been in the game a little bit longer. So I'm going to talk about how I would have done him and how he ultimately ends, in my personal belief. So, without further ado, let's get right into this. To me, my biggest problem with Cid and when he eventually dies at the end of the first Mother Crystal, I just felt like it was just too soon in the game. I just feel like he needed to at least be in the game at least another chapter or two, not just for having the joy of seeing him more, because I think he's excellent and he's a great character to bounce off of with other characters, but I just feel like it would have made his eventual death hit that much harder. Because I'll be honest, when he dies in a game, I wasn't really as much sad as more just like in a state of like stunned shock, or just like, really? Like, they really going to get rid of him this early? And it just didn't sit right with me. And I feel like I have the right moment in this game in which he should have died. And I felt like it would have hit a lot more effectively and harder when it did. But first, let's get to how I would have done it. So obviously, I haven't thought about this too hard and deep. You'd had to change a few things in the overall census of the story, but you're going to, I guess, get a basis of how you would follow me, how I would change a few things. So basically, the first Mother Crystal, I like that whole adventure and journey because it's the first time we have both Clive and Jill and Cid in a group together, not just talking for a moment, but just traveling together and actually doing something. And I hate that it's the only time, because I feel like the banter between all three of them could have been really good and epic. And I feel like what they should have done, they should have had them succeed in what they were doing, destroy the first Mother Crystal, and have that kind of success right there, like, hey, we can do this. Hey, we got one. People thought this was impossible. We actually succeeded in doing it. And have them get that, like, little false hope, like that little, like, how you do that major big hurdle in a game and everyone's kind of all happy and proud about it. So they kind of, get excited and maybe a little bit too big for their britches, but nonetheless, they all come out of it, virtually unscathed and whatnot. Obviously, one thing that's going to have to get pushed back a little bit is just the fact that, Hugo, setting up the ambush going to the original hideout. Now, that was the whole 5-year transition. I'm going to hold off on that a little bit too. That's going to come at his death, but in the new version of how his death is going to go. So hold off on that. But basically, they come out of it like, hey, we got done this crystal. We can do a lot of things. Why don't we jump to the next one? But my point is, the next big crystal obviously would be the one in Drake's Breath. And the reason why I want Cid to live is, you get more times with him. You kind of get a sense of more what he wants to do. But also, you get more times with other characters. So I feel like a big part of him is he gives a lot to Clive in terms of how he grows up and how he eventually adapts his own manner once he dies. But I feel like he should have also given that wisdom and how he, goes about things, especially with Jill when, obviously her Mother Crystal moment would be huge, but having him along for that ride would have been a big moment, because I feel like there isn't enough Cid and Jill moments. There's too many, moments with Clive with everybody, but just have someone outside of Clive, just having that Sid and Jill interaction. I feel like there should have been a lot more of that, and he could have been really, helpful in terms of her getting over that stuff, and him having that experience would have been invaluable. But I just feel like at that point, you would have had a few adventures where you're traveling along with that group, and you would have got really attached to that group, because I think that's the biggest problem I have with Sid is that, you get the moments with Clive, you get enough of them, but you don't get that extra person, and once you're not having that one mission where you do all three of them, it's like one and done, and it makes you kind of feel like, really? I never got a chance to see them all really enjoy traveling together and having that camaraderie, as I said in my latest video. But here's where I feel like they can really make the whole effectiveness of what I'm trying to convey of when Sid should honestly go, when he should have perished, and when he should have died. Is you obviously have, at that point, 2 Mother Crystals dead. Obviously, I'm pushing back the whole 5-year jump. But this is when I feel like they should have done it. Obviously, the next big event of that is, Hugo invading Rosaria, and obviously, getting more fanatic and mad at trying to get after Sid for what happened to Benny. Now, this is where I feel like this would have been the perfect moment to get rid of Sid personally, because it would have made sense, and it would have given Clive and Jill a lot more of an incentive to go after Hugo than they already have been. Yes, I know, and they obviously had it when after the original Sid dies, they had his hideout invaded and stuff like that, but I just never felt like, I'm not hating on any of those people that died in that whole ambush massacre, but it's like, most of them, let's be honest, we don't really care that much about them. It's not really hitting that effectiveness. Now, tell me this wouldn't be a lot more effective. Tell me this really wouldn't hit you deep. So, have the whole thing where, the gang, all 3 of them go to Rosaria, and they're trying to, free it from Hugo invading it, taking it over. And they get in a situation similar to the one they in, where they all kind of get captured in a way, and they're all about to die, and Hugo obviously is gunning for Sid. And obviously we know that it's not that Sid that killed Benny, but obviously, Sid is going to keep quiet about it. Not going to say it's actually Clive at that point. But the point is, they get into a moment where, like, both of them, are really about to go at each other. And our Sid knows that, hey, obviously he's getting older. His body's starting to decay. As you see the stone in his arm. He's starting to lose lackluster. But he realized that in order for all of them to get out of this alive, someone's got to make a big, sacrifice play. And I just feel like it would have been a lot more emotional beats of a story if he's ultimately the one that makes that big sacrifice play there. And it's Hugo that ultimately kills him after he uses all his strength, his icon strength, to get Jill and Clive and Torgal and Gab out there in that moment, just so they could live to fight another day. And just having it be Hugo that ultimately does him in would give more than enough incentive to have, Clive and Jill and everyone else how to ultimately want to go after him. And I feel like that would have given, Hugo a lot more urgency than what he did in just killing a bunch of NPCs we really don't care about in Hideout compared to, him actually killing, our Sid itself. And I feel like that would have been a great moment for Sid, because we would have more time with him. He would have not only been more time to help and enhance, Clive as a character, but also Jill as a character as well. And really just make you long and miss him even more, and ultimately just make you want to go after Hugo even more. Now, I do have an X factor in this whole thing that I'm not going to mention or talk about, just from the standpoint that I'm going to say that for the next video I'm going to do immediately after this one. But it's also going to make this moment hit a lot more deeper for me personally. And it's one of those, what-if scenarios that I would have done with another character that I didn't really talk about or mention. But I'm going to keep quiet about that, because you might be wondering about this too. But ultimately, as I said, this is just things I've thought about, on my mind. And obviously, you'd have to change a few things. Obviously, one of the big things is the first Mother Crystal. If you go with my versions, obviously you're not going to have the whole sequence with, Ultima or Joshua coming in there. And as I said, that could probably be written, in another way, another form, or whatnot. Or maybe it still happens to a degree, it just happens a little bit differently. But the main point is, I just feel like Sid should have lasted a little bit longer, just so we'd have a few more missions and side quests to do with him, just so not just Clive can also enhance, but also Jill enhance. I just feel like we didn't get enough Jill Sid moments. I think he would have been a big plus for her personally on that whole journey with Drake's Breath, if he was still alive for that. And just having that group together, I was really excited when we had these three together, but just when it was the only time, especially for this mission, it just kind of really just annoyed me. And as I said, I don't think anyone's going to claim or get mad at when you see a little bit more Sid, but at the end of the day, this is just my opinion. I like Sid. I think he really brings out the best of everybody, and I wish we could have seen more of him, just my point. But that's just how I would have done it. But that is just my opinion, guys. I want to hear your guys' opinion. Do you think he died too quickly? Do you think that if he died in that whole invasion of Rosaria, after the second Mother Crystal, and having Hugo being the one who does him in while he makes a sacrifice play to let Clive and Jill get away, would that have hit a lot more harder than what eventually does happen to him in the first Mother Crystal, in a way? Let me know in the comment section down below, but that is going to be it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and hopefully I can see you guys back on the next one. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day, and I hope to see you all later. Peace.